Robin Day.
And with me, two of the most colourful campaigners. Both of them have been campaigning, and both of them will be at Westminster in different capacities. Mr. Michael Foot, who won Ebervale on a reduced Conservative swing. It was only 2.4 in favour of the Conservatives at Mr. Michael Foot's constituency. And with me on the right, Mr. Emmanuel Shinwell, who will be a Lord when Parliament reassembles. Michael Foot, first of all, why do you think Mr. Wilson has lost?
Why?
Yes.
Well, I think that a great mistake was made in having the election in June. Of course, some of us did say that originally when just about the time when the announcement was made in Tribune. I think it was the only newspaper in the country which advised Mr. Wilson and the others in the cabinet to hold off the election until October and to prepare properly for it. And I think if that had been done, it might have been a different story, because I think the polls have, of course, they've proved themselves to be absolute rubbish, but some of us suspected that before. But what they concealed was the fact that the Labour Party still had a great way to recover from the difficulties in which it was placed some months ago. Michael,
Tom Dryburgh, who was on earlier, suggested that you might be a good man to be deputy leader of the party in place of George Brown. What do you think about that?
Well, Tom Dryburgh's a fine old friend of mine, and I dare say he said it in a friendly spirit.
Now, Mr. Shinwell, look what happens when you're no longer a Labour candidate for Parliament.
Well, perhaps if I had been, it might have been a different result.
Quite probably. Now, I understand you voted, even though you're going to become a peer. How did you manage to get in your last vote as a commoner?
Well, I was still an ordinary citizen, you see. If there are only two categories in this country, two categories of persons who are not allowed to vote at a parliamentary election: a peer of the realm and a lunatic.
You've forgotten bankrupt.
No, a bankrupt also. Well, there are three of them. Anyway, I'm not a bankrupt as yet, although financially precarious. I'm not, so far as I know, suffering from any mental disability, and I'm not a lord yet. I think it happens over the weekend when the British Gazette announces it.
Now, why do you think the Labour Party lost, Mr. Shinwell?
Well, I think very largely because of abstentions. I entirely agree with what I've just heard. That it was a mistake, an error of judgment, to have the election brought forward to June. When the members of the Labour Party were consulted and asked for advice, the majority suggested October.
Now, what's going to happen in the Labour Party now? Is there going to be a recrudescence of the old left-right split?
Well, first of all, the party is intact. It's in a very strong position. It would make a very strong opposition. If we had suffered further defeat, it might have been very much worse.
Well, we've lost Mr. Foot for the moment. But do you think that who do you think is the right man to be the deputy leader of the Labour Party now, Mr.
We don't have a deputy leader.
George Brown is deputy leader until yesterday.
This was quite fortuitous. It happened in the case of Herbert Morrison, the late Herbert Morrison. When he was defeated for his seat on the national executive of the party, it was decided as a matter of courtesy.
But there's a constitutional post of deputy leader.
No, there is no such thing.
Oh.
There never was in the Labour Party. We never had a deputy leader until Morrison was made deputy leader so that he could have a seat on the national executive. Because of that, it was continued. But in point of fact, there is no constitutional reason why there should be a deputy leader.
But there will be a deputy leader elected.
Well, I don't know. It depends. It depends. The parliamentary party will meet and will decide, first of all, who the leader will be, and I presume it will be Harold Wilson. The question will be raised whether there should be a deputy leader, and it is questionable whether they will decide to have one.
Mr. Ray Gunter earlier, Mr. Shinwell, said he thought that what was wrong with the Labour campaign is there wasn't enough principle, not enough feeling in the campaign to make people feel why to vote Labour.
It wasn't aggressive enough. I mean, it was a little namby-pamby. There was a lot of fun and games.
A misjudgment of the public mood.
We ought to have attacked. Indeed, I can only say that in the meetings that I addressed in the North and in Manchester and even in George Brown's constituency, where I spoke last weekend in some of the London marginals, I adopted the usual rumbustious style, the old propaganda spirit.
I saw you with 8 young ladies, Mr. Shinwell, in a chorus line.
Yes, that was all right.
That looked very good.
Oh, yes, very good indeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shinwell.